Hello, and you're very welcome back to the Townhead podcast. It's season 3, episode 1. We're going to do it all over again. And I suppose we have a good stellar lineup for the first lineup tonight. So please welcome to the show tonight, Donal, Pingu, and Gali. And it's somewhat this kind of becoming a bit of a season tradition to kick off the season again, very similar to last year. We're joined by Gavin McLaughlin, the media content officer for Dundalk Football Club. Gavin, you're very welcome.
Thanks, lads. Good to see you again.
It's always a good start when Donald's gone within 2 seconds of starting.
He's had enough.
Look, Gav, I suppose we'll come around to you first. When we chat to you last year, we were on the back of the end of all the craziness, and you were hoping for a more calmer sea ahead of you. First full season with these owners. I mean, how was it?
Well, obviously it was a lot calmer than 2021. This time last year, I think it was going through post-traumatic stress disorder, and it was quickly used. But look, I think everybody, it's been a great year. If we had said 12 months ago when we were on the show at the start of the season that we'd finish level on points with Derry and only finished third on goal difference, we would have ripped hand, legs, the whole lot. It was an unbelievable season considering the short space of time that Stevie had to assemble a squad, and sort of the ownership issues was only resolved at the November before the season started. So I think it was a brilliant season, and it probably shows how well we did. That there's games we look back and I think, Jesus, if we had won this one, or we had won that, or if we had picked up points against Drogheda, if we had beat UCD, if we hadn't had Pat Hoban injured for a large chunk of the season, who knows where we might have been. But look, overall it was a brilliant season, on and off the pitch. It's the club's sort of back on steady ground, which is where we wanted it to be. And I think this season it's all about progressing it even more, as I say, on and off the pitch from what we did last year.
Yeah, look, and Gav, just kind of going on to the tail end of where it all started, I suppose, last year. Like, I remember coming up to the Christmas time, and the 12 days of Christmas, and you were having your panic attack, and we were pulling players left, right, and centre out of everywhere. Compared to the preseason this year, we've a lot more steadier footing to actually build a team from this year compared to last year. It was like, let's hope we can pull in the lads back in again, and there seems to be a lot more longer commitment. Great to see people like Nathan Shepherd, having a contract option on him, for instance. We're not going around looking for a goalkeeper, because goalkeepers and strikers are the two things that are very lacking in most leagues, quality keepers and quality strikers. So to hold on to possibly two of the best in the league in Pat Hoban, and having him for another season again, but that was never under threat, I suppose. But Nathan Shepherd, that's a big difference to last year as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Christmas just gone, I think that was probably my fault, because Christmas 21, as you say, or 22, it was the 12 days of Christmas. It was this idea I had that we'd do something each day in the run up to Christmas. But the reason we did that was because literally we only had 2 lads signed. If you remember, it was only Andy Boyle and Darragh Leahy. So when we went into Christmas just gone, we already had a squad of 12, 13 already signed. So I can understand people were thinking, what's going on up there? Is anything happening? But literally all of our players were under contract. We announced a batch of sort of re-signings just as the season ended, and that was it. That was literally the squad was the bulk of the squad was there. And I think Stevie, in fairness, has always been a record saying that he was willing to bide his time to get the players he wanted in the door. There was, I think he'd be the first one to say he probably could have signed 2 or 3 from the League of Ireland towards the end of last season, towards the end of last year. Would they have improved the squad? Probably not. So he's always said that he wanted to bring in quality, and it was a case of waiting until I think the window in the UK opened in January, and you can see that he's brought in 5 lads from the UK. None of them are loan deals; they're all permanent, which I think is brilliant. It's a great sign. So it was a different Christmas than the Christmas gone, but it was a lot more stable. And I can understand we probably should have been a bit more active in announcing sort of bits and pieces in the lead up to Christmas, but because the bulk of the squad was already there, it's not that there was no news, but there was no sort of transfer news to give out. So it was a lot different than the Christmas 12 months prior to that. A lot different.
A lot different for you too, Gavin.
Yeah.
You know, you just touched on it there, Gavin. I suppose when we did look to the UK market last year, it was trying to get good quality loans in. Towards, as you just mentioned, we actually haven't touched the loan market yet. We've got guys to come over from the UK here on full-time contracts, you know, and we own the players. That's a big change as well from last year.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, if you look back at last year when you're bringing in the likes of Nathan and Dan Williams, Joe Adams, Lewis McCarry, they're all lads who were sort of coming out of. They hadn't really played adult football. This is the real sort of first sort of taste of men's senior football. But if you look at the lads who are coming in now, they've all been in and around first team squads, either in Scotland with Cammy or in England with, you look at Hayden and Conor Malley, Louis, you know, they've all been in and around. Archie's obviously been playing up until recently, he's been playing non-league, but the rest of them have all been sort of in and around, you know, the first team squad. So I think we've sort of gone to another level. You know, it might not be the elite level that other clubs can, you know, the likes of Derry and Rovers can sort of shop in at the minute. But I think if anybody has seen these lads, the 5 lads over pre-season, they're going to be good players, really, really good players.
Gav, do you think, just I don't know if Chris else lined up, but it's just something that was on my mind. I was talking to someone last night as well, and there was a couple of tweets out last week saying that they felt the squad was small. There was this kind of debate started on Twitter about it. But like you just started the podcast there, Steve, he's shrewd operator. He's signing players with quality rather than just signing players for the sake of it. So would you say that the 18, 19 that we have are all capable of playing? You know, do we have a squad for the first time probably in maybe 4 seasons that, you know, all of them can play in the 11, can compete, you know, to kind of get, you know, work their way up the table?
I think the thing is, Gally, he's always been like that. He's always quality over quantity. I'm sure in an ideal world, I'm sure everybody, and Stevie, you know, definitely love a 25-man squad. You know, that's just the nature of it. But he's always been adamant that I go back to that. There's no point just signing lads, you know, that have they've hit their ceiling. They're not going to improve. So he's brought in. If you look at the midfield area, for example, good luck to him trying to pick 3 out of that or 4 out of that when everybody's fit. You know, I think it's no secret that we'd all love another couple in before the window closes. You know, I think numbers wise, we would be hoping that you'd avoid what happened last year, where you get a couple of serious injuries and it can really sort of disrupt things. But I think if we get a couple in now over the next couple of days before the window shuts, I think we'd be well set going into the first part of the season anyway.
And just who are them players going to be, Gav? Have you any?
I'm the last one. I literally am the last one to know. I'll just get word. I'll get word probably about 2 hours before that there's somebody coming in, and I'll have to get something together. So the my stress levels will go down when the window closes on Wednesday for a couple of months.
It's good to see some things never change, Gavin.
Yeah.
Gav, we've also seen, especially over the past this week, and I in particular, I suppose there's some recruitment off field as well. I'm just looking at we've really opened up on the SLO and the number of people in those roles, and then of course we had lost one of the true heroes in Oriel Park in Brian Gartland to retirement only for him to come back. And again, how is that role settling for him too?
I think he loves it. It's a complete different sort of. It's a big change for Garth. You know, obviously he's dealing with the sort of the other side of the game. But like, you're speaking to the new lads who are coming in, and Garth is sort of one of the people in the negotiations. He's sort of telling them about the club. He's sort of introducing them to people. He's bringing them around Dundalk. He's trying to sort them out with houses. Like, what better a person than Brian Gartland to be doing that? Like, you know, it was one of the things that annoyed me when towards the end of 2020 was when the likes of Dane Massey and John Murphy left at that stage. Lads have, you know, just sort of steeped in the club and they know what the club is all about. Like, we should be doing our best to try and hang on to lads like that. where possible. I'm not saying you hold on to them just for the sake of it, but if somebody has a role to play and somebody has a a side to give, I think Garth, as we all know, he's very successful business wise. He likes that sort of part of the world and that sort of industry. So it's a perfect marriage. He knows the game obviously inside out, and he's a good businessman. So it's working really well. I think in fairness to Stevie, he needed sort of that. The last thing he needs to be doing is bogged down in contract negotiations and a lot of that. It's the League of Ireland is no different than any other league in Europe in terms of agents and negotiations and stuff like that. And it can be, a manager, if you're sort of involved in that and trying to coach a team and pick a team, it can take up a lot of your time. But he seems to be enjoying it, Garth. I have to say he's done really well. But like myself, he'd probably be glad now when this window closes on Wednesday, and he can sort of plan more towards the summer then,
Yeah. Pingu, I know you have to jump off with your many jobs. I don't know if you want to just jump in before you finish.
Is that the question? Just do I want to jump in? I'm just.
That's something for Gavin, all right.
No, I just want to go back to what Gav was talking about earlier, but obviously there wasn't as many signings this year, and poor Gally, you put him through that much pressure, he tore his hair out in the close season, Gav, so it would have been nice to get a little bit of an update. I think I just found all the echo chamber on Twitter very funny in the close season, because we were in a completely different position, as Gav says, this past year, where, as he said, there was only 12 players signed up, or 2 players signed up before Christmas, so you had to do the 12 days of Christmas kind of thing, where this year you had players signed up, and I know Chris had a couple of them in brackets that were tied down to multi-year deals, which he's still getting a bit of slagging over, but I'm excited for the season, and I think this year you're probably going to see the likes of maybe like Senna Mullen, who has featured quite a lot in pre-season, playing out of position. I reckon you're probably going to see the likes of them players getting more game time this year, so it's one thing that we probably haven't seen, and we didn't see a lot of in the Stephen Kenny era, apart from probably the O'Connor brothers, where I think Stevie's a little bit different if you're good enough, you're old enough, and we're going to see that, and that's something that I think Dundalk fans probably since the days of my mate Ian Foster, when he had that kind of 4 or 5 lads to get their opportunities, or even Sean McCaffrey gave a lot of the young lads opportunities. Now we're going to finally see that again, but I think Stevie kind of has his finger on the pulse there, and he's willing to give those lads a chance, which that excites me, that we're going to see local lads now in the first team, which is great,
I think obviously the one Ryan's obviously the perfect example of that, because this time last year I don't think many people would have thought that Ryan would have gone on and had the impact that he had towards the end of the season. Even the early part of last season, Ryan was mostly involved with the 19s, and he was sort of in and out with the first team. But the progression he made, and physically as well, you can see the Ryan O'Kane from today is physically a complete different, from the Ryan O'Kane last year. He's put in some amount of work. So I think the likes of Senan and Owen Kenny, Anthony Mayo's been in most of pre-season with the first team, Callum Bonner, the young lads you see, our academy did a really good season last year. We probably, and it's something we need to address, is we need to give the academy more exposure, because there's really, really good people and there's really good players involved. There's really good lads coming through. So, and that's boys and girls. It's not just the boys. There's really talented players on the girl side as well. So, we've seen a pre-season 4 or 5 of them involved, and I think if they keep going, they need to, like Senan in particular. When Senan physically sort of gets to where he needs to get, he could be a really good player. Physically, he's he's still developing, but I think they're looking at Ryan now and saying, yeah, if I can keep progressing, Stevie will obviously, he will give them a chance. So it's up to them now. They've been in a pre-season, they've had a taste of it. It's up to them now to go on and take that next step between academy and first team football. But I agree with you, Pinker. There's nothing better than seeing a young lad in the team, especially if they're local. I spoke to Johnny Breen last week for the academy. He's back as the strength and conditioning coach, and him and Griff broke into the team at the same time. And I remember around that time, it was great just seeing local lads. Tiernan was in, I think, the year before. a couple of seasons before that broke in. Around that time, it was, you know, there was local lads getting in, and it just gives everybody. Nathan Muffy, Chippy McDonald. I remember he come on. He was only 16 or something when he played Philly Duffy. There was that sort of batch from that youth team who come in around that time, and it just gives everybody loves seeing a local lad. But it's always been the thing is, they have to be, and I know it's a cliche, they have to be good enough. Doesn't matter where you're from, you have to be good enough. And I think Ryan's shown that he's good enough. Now it's up to Senan and Owen and Anto and those lads now to show that they're good enough to take the step. And if they are, there's no doubt Stevie will give them an opportunity, you know.
Yeah, I think
I have to go now, so sorry, Gavin. Thanks for that, Gavin. Come here, I'll chat to these lads.
Cheers, mate.
Well, thanks, Ringo. Talk to you during the season, pal.
I think the lad that we mentioned on the end of season podcast last year, we had Tiernan on. It would have been our last podcast. I think,
it was the last one of the season,
and he was waxing lyrical about, you know, a lot of the youngsters. I just echo what you were saying. I tell you what I wanted to mention. I just wanted to going off topic. I noticed that, you know, I put a post up, I think it was yesterday or maybe this morning, about the match program. So there's obviously this debate over, you know, when are you going to go paper or online? What was the thinking all season, or was it just kind of, did you feel it just wasn't maybe gathering momentum like you wanted it, or was it easier to maybe go online? Or
the program since COVID, Gally, obviously when there was nobody at games, you had no sort of physical program. So 20 when we come back in 20, it was all digital. It was a PDF program that we used to put out, and it was okay, but like, I think most people would prefer, obviously, especially when it comes to a magazine or a book, obviously you prefer the physical copy. So 2021, we did them for the European games. We did a couple of printed ones for the European games, but for the league games, it was just digital. So last year we decided, right, we'll go back to doing the printed ones. So the hope was, the first game against Derry, we sold out, they all went. But each week then you're going in, and on a Monday you go into the office and Ailish point to the box and say they're left over from the other night. So you're starting to look and think, right, okay. And then as the season's going on, you're sort of looking, there's about 40 or 50 of them left in the box, and it's only a print run of 300. So you're starting to think, right, there's 2,500 people in here on a Friday night. There's only a tenth of the people sort of buying a program. So you begin to wonder then, is it because people are out of the habit of buying it, and, you know, they're not going back? Like last year we were doing a 40-page. It wasn't like it was an A4 sheet folded over, and, you know, it was still 40 pages. But the main sort of issue was the amount of time that I was sort of putting into it. A program, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is your days really to get a program sorted and get it to print. But it was nearly taking me, there could be a full day and a half of those 3 days spent on the program. So my argument was, surely I'm better doing podcasts, videos, social media, you know, training videos, stuff like that you know that more people are seeing, you know that more people are engaging with, you know that's the audience that, you know, it's 2023, that's where the audience is. So we had the debate on and off for a good 6-9 months whether we'd scrap it. So at one stage I think it was, we were going to go to a digital, not a digital PDF, but a more sort of digital interactive sort of magazine. There is some good products out there. If you take a look, Man City have a very good sort of digital magazine where it's sort of like a program, but it's more, you're looking at it on your phone and it moves and it's interactive. It's more engaging than a PDF. So we were looking at that, but at the same time, we've volunteers there who chip in with the program. Sean DeLockery, Paul Dunn, who gives me a hand with the design, Jared Mooney, Tom O'Connor. You've good lads there who are willing to give up their time. So when you take that into account, and then the other big thing we have to take into account is a lot of our supporters in the sort of older age group, the program is probably the only form of communication, apart from newspapers, it's probably the program. So if you're taking out those 250 people, I'm not saying they're all in a certain age bracket, but if you're taking them out, are they going to get any news from the club, or are they going to, they might not necessarily see that we appointed an SLO team because it was on the website or on our social media pages, but they might see it through the program. So it was trying to find that sort of balance between, right, how much time can we commit to it, and we're still hitting a demographic that we might not hit if we get rid of it. So we've just gone with a more streamlined. It's 24 pages. It's only 2 pages of ads, where last year I think it was 10, 12 pages some weeks. So we've taken out all the sort of the bells and whistles, and it's just related to the match. There's nothing sort of in it that's not related to the match night itself. So look, I'm confident when people see it, they'll say, yeah, it's a good product. But to ensure we're not having this debate 12 months down the line, if 500 people were buying the program, it wouldn't be an issue. Do you know what I mean? It's just because then you can justify the amount of time that you're spending on it. But if there's only 200 people buying it, then this time next year we would probably have to look and say, this just isn't working. Because
I think
there was a good point. Sorry, Gal.
Go on, no.
Somebody tweeted, I think, a couple of weeks ago saying Dundalk have always had a program, and the club can't get rid of it because Dundalk have always had a program, and I fully agree with that. Dundalk have always had a program, but we haven't always had a TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, live stream, podcasts. We haven't always had those sort of channels as well. And look, we are hopefully in the process of getting a couple of good volunteers on board to the media team. There's Donald smiling there for some reason.
That's the first time hearing of it.
We're hoping to get some people. We're hoping to get more people involved on the media side of things to sort of share that, because it's an ever-growing beast. Like TikTok, for example, is the perfect example. We have a TikTok account. I haven't really publicized it yet because it's sort of sitting there, just the odd video on it. It's not something I want to, fully put out there at the minute, because we just don't have the time or the resources to put or give it the sort of attention and use it for the right sort of means, So the program was one of those, but we have gone ahead with it. Thankfully, I would have hated to see the physical program come to an end. It's caused me no end of heartache over the last 2-3 years. But look, I keep going back to it. Like I've done 5 books. I love a physical. There's nothing like it. And I seen Peter Gosling tweeting today that in years to come, you look back and you pick up a program and it'll bring back memories. And yeah, hopefully that is the case. But we do need more people to sort of get behind it and pick it up. And then we know, look, this is worth putting the time and effort in.
It's a fair amount of effort that Man City put in to send it out to 2 fans, isn't it?
It is good. Well done, Donald. I like that.
Yeah, I'll throw that in there. I just to go back to say the preparations for this season against the preparations for last season. Obviously, for fans last year, I think the expectation was just that things would settle down a little bit and that we'd get the club back, we're up and running, and everything would start to make a little bit more sense than it had the year before. This year definitely feels a little bit different, I think, to fans going into the new season thinking, right, these lads aren't on loan. These are proper professional footballers that are coming in. Is the atmosphere around the club, I guess, does that match what we feel, that this is like, we have a really, really important season ahead of us, that like we do have to build on the settling work that we did last season, that we put things together? Do we have to build on that now? Did you get that around the club?
Yeah, it's funny because I was speaking to Burnsy about this today, because we were talking about sort of this time last year when everything was everything. I'm not saying it was thrown together, but it was fairly rushed, and it was nearly you were going into the first game of the season against Derry and thinking, Jesus, like, how's this going to go? And we'll see how we're going after 6 months, and we might be here or we might be there. But like myself and Burns were saying today, like you can get a feeling of the group and the team. I'm over in the YDC, so I see them every day, and you get a feeling. And there's a proper, like, everybody's really looking forward to now getting it up and running. Last year as well, like over Christmas, all the players were in over Christmas. Like they didn't really have much time off from the end of the Derry game last year. I think they might have got 10 days max, and then they were in blocks of sort of individual training and group training. So everybody's sort of been around the place since the season ended, and everybody's now looking forward to it. And there's a feeling now. There's real quality. There's real quality in the group. We are a bit light in numbers. There's no doubt about that. We could be doing with a couple of extra bodies, but if we keep everybody fit, and I know that's easier said than done, but if we keep everybody fit, they're all the players who had sort of niggles over the winter break. They're all back. You know, that sort of the good thing about having one of the longest off seasons in Europe was that it gave lads time to recover. So there's definitely a feeling, right? Last year was good, but they don't just want to settle for that again. They want to go on and they want to push. They want to push again. And look, I think everybody's talking Derry and Rovers, and you look at the other clubs around us last year. Pats, Sligo, Bows, they've all strengthened. It's going to be a tight league, but I think the lads are confident that if we keep everybody fit, we could go. Who knows where we could go? You know.
I think it says a lot, though, Gav, when you listen or you read anything online at the moment. I think a lot of people are kind of a toss up with Derry and Rovers for who could win the league, but after that, we're probably the best of the rest. Like which says a lot of how far we came in one season, like you mentioned there, Donald, last year. And if we're building on that you'd like to think that we could solidify it, like even a club like Dundalk to get back to back European campaigns again, like that financially is massive to the club, isn't it?
Yeah, and like it was one of the things. It was one of the things we would have spoke about last year. Like we took Europe for granted nearly. We took cup finals for granted, and you know, like you're right. Like you look at the prize money. The prize money for the league was announced there a couple of weeks ago, and what you go one round in Europe and it's nearly double of what you get for winning the league. So yeah, that has to be the aim has to be getting back into Europe first and foremost. I think if we do that again, it's another brilliant season, because we can keep saying it and everybody keeps saying it, but you look at the resources Derry have. They're after bringing in two lads over the last couple of days from England, really good talented players to add to the squad that they had. You look at what Rovers have done. You know, it's not going to be easy. Pats have invested sort of heavily as well. Sligo brought in a lot of players. It won't be easy, but if there's definitely enough good quality in that squad at the minute to push. Like you think where we pushed last year, the finish level on points with Derry and the investment and the players that they brought in, and only finished third on goal difference. You know, that speaks a lot about, you know, speaks a lot about what Stevie did in his first year. And we also, the big thing is we've the benefit now of 12, 13, 14 players who know what to expect from Stevie, what way he wants to play, what way, you know, what standards he sets out. So this time last year, you would have had Mountney, Benson, Sam Bone, 3 or 4 lads who sort of worked with him at Pats. Yeah. A couple of lads have played with him, but now you have the bulk of the squad know, right, this is what he expects week in, week out. And I think we can only get better this year. I think there's no doubt about it. We've had a year of bedding in. We've added real, love to have money for every time to say quality tonight, but he's added really, really good players. So touch wood, we keep everybody fit and maybe get a couple in this week, and you know.
He's mentioned that couple in this week. There must be something happens. So that's the second time.
Hopefully we get somebody in this week, Ali. Hopefully we get somebody in this week.
Pingu had to jump off there, but Gabby, just wanted to ask. There's an announcement this week from Future Ticketing that the anticipated over 1 million could be attending League of Ireland games this year throughout the season. That's an astonishing figure, considering, you know, you think of the people that we would have seen back in Oriel Park when we were in the first division days and stuff like that. You know, it's nearly legendary. You can name them on one hand. You know, the people who were going to be there or going to be standing beside you. For the growth of the game to be going in that direction, you know, it's a phenomenal thing. And you'd like to think, we've all talked about, I suppose, where facilities need to match the expectation. But if the expectation grows so high, it might actually push this on from a high level. And I'm talking Sports Ireland, government level, which is probably where we all need intervention at this stage.
I think it has to happen, Chris, because the numbers, you look at last year around the league and most clubs reporting an increase in attendances. It has to happen because we're on a meeting this week with the FAI about the sort of media plans, and they were talking about the rebrand and stuff like that. And there's good people there, good people in the FAI. They brought in a couple of people last year just to primarily look after the League of Ireland, and we were talking about the streaming and stuff like that. There's, I think LOI TV is a step in the right direction, and there is plans to, over the next couple of years, make that even better. But facilities has to be addressed, and we know that better than anybody at Oriel. Like Stevie, I think Stevie said it last week at the launch of the league. It's a really good league, and the attendances and the crowds and the people coming through the gates are there to prove it. But when you're trying to attract players, it's that initial part of getting them to come here in the first place. Because when they come and they settle in for a couple of days and they train with players, they're saying like, Jesus, we didn't think it was going to be this good, or we didn't expect it to be this intense. Or even the lads who were playing up in the Malone Cup, they're like so physical, so fast. It's a tough league compared to what we were, where we would have been playing it. So it's when you get people into the league to see it firsthand how good it can be. But I think as Stevie was saying, to get people to cross that bridge to come from England or Europe, we need to have better optics. We need to have better grounds. We need to have better facilities. The obvious one is Jordan Flowers' goal against Rovers and Tala a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, if that happens at the town end or then at the Carrick Road end, it doesn't. To me, that doesn't go. It doesn't go viral. It doesn't be nominated for a Puskas Award. He's not talking to CNN the next day. You know what I mean? So something's got to happen at government level, because the numbers. It's the biggest sport in the country. You look at the articles over recent weeks about the amount of money that sort of gambling that horse racing and greyhounds getting from that. Like, there needs to be something done. And again, it goes back to the international team. The international team. That's where the players are coming from. So. To ensure our national team is strong, they might not the way it is at the minute, young lads might not play too many games in the League of Ireland before they head across the water, but they're going to come through the academies of League of Ireland clubs. So something's got to be done to make it better. I go back to the prize money last week. I don't think the prize money's increased. I don't think since 2017. I think was the last. It's pretty depressing at times when you think we've no prize money, we've no TV sort of deal. Players are moving across to clubs, and we're not getting that big a transfer fees for it. So something's got to be done, because, as you say, and the figures are there. The numbers are coming through. The numbers are coming through. Yeah. So something's got to give.
Yeah, look, Gavin, you touched on it there, and it's something we talked about a lot over the past few seasons as well. Brexit provided an opportunity for our academy football, that we were now going to hold on to these guys longer. And I think exactly what you just said, what's ended up happening now as well is that they have now found their way into first team football, and have got a chance before making moves. They've actually have a chance of senior football that they probably never would have had 17, 18 years old. And now you're starting to see transfer fees coming in from the UK. I know we're all probably saying it's way underestimated what it should be. We would value the players a lot more. But there was a while where, Daryl Horgan and Richie Towell was going for nothing from our club, because we weren't able to hold on to players at all. And if you look at the number of players over the past year that have left the league, but they've all left for sums of money in the majority of the cases. That hasn't always been the way as well. So that could be a new revenue stream back in. So if we're holding on to these guys for longer, that's extra investment from the younger guys back in. That should all feed. Like the government needs to look at that, and like you say, as an overall thing now, saying the League of Ireland is our breeding ground for underage football. It's our breeding ground eventually for our international team. We need better facilities right the way across to improve them, improve coaches, improve the caliber of players in the league, and it has a knock-on effect right the way through. Am I right?
Yeah, of course. And look, it's an expensive business. We've obviously got the first team, but we've also got 6 academy teams at Oriel now. It's like we've an extra women's team now, and in the National League this year with under 17 and under 19, and obviously within the next couple of years we'd like to have a senior team as well. So that all costs money. Like you've got under 17, you've got under 14 teams heading to Cove some weekends, like buses and transport and food and kits. It all adds up. So we obviously, every club wants to produce players and every club wants to bring players through, not only to play in the first team but to go on and play in the national team. But you can't expect clubs to be running academies when there's 110 or 120 grand up for winning a league over a 9-month season. It's just, it doesn't make sense, So something's got to give. I know what you mean about the fees coming in, but I think it's a double-edged sword because we're losing our sort of best players now, even younger. Like it was funny. I was actually speaking to one of the lads from, I think it might have been Andy Boyle. I was like, imagine 2016. That 2016 team, if that 2016 team was here now, they'd all be gone. They'd all be playing. They'd all be playing in England because that's because of Brexit now and the sort of work permit situation. Ireland's become sort of the place to pick. So they all would have been hoovered up. But it goes back as well to you look at around the league, the signings. We were quiet over Christmas, but the league in general was quiet, I thought, around Christmas because there wasn't much transfer activity, and the reason was because there's all the quality has sort of been picked by the English clubs and the Scottish clubs over the last 12 months. Whereas every year you'd always see a flurry of activity between players within the league moving here and there. But I think, as we've seen in the winter, it's a knock-on effect that there is so much talent being drained out of the league. And you look at players that have been brought in. Sligo have taken in a couple of players from Estonia. Rovers have a couple of players from there as well. Clubs are looking towards that market because there's just not enough. There doesn't seem to be enough quality as there might have been in the league, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Of course, we've gone looking at Gibraltar as well.
Gibraltar, yeah.
Just
good. Yeah.
What was I suppose what would he have known about the league before signing with us?
Louis. Yeah. Well, I think I always ask him that, have you heard of Dundalk? And most of them, there was a couple in 2021 didn't know where we were, what country we were in, to be honest. But they genuinely all seem they've heard of Dundalk because of the Europa League, and we were in it a couple of years ago in the group stages and stuff. So they do sort of know the club, but they obviously don't know much about the league and who they're going to be coming up against. Rovers obviously in the Conference League last year, although they didn't make a great sort of impression, it sort of helps the league sort of presence because look, we all know the lads who joined, they're all football fans like us. So you see clubs and you're thinking, oh Jesus, there's a club from Luxembourg. They're in the group stages. You're familiar with the name, but they don't know too much about. They might not know much about the teams they're playing or where they're going. And I think that was one of the reasons as well that Stevie was adamant the Malone Cup had to be played at United Park was that they get up there and they get a taste of it before we play them in the league because there is grounds around the country that sometimes you go up, like Ballybuffet is the obvious one. You go up and you're thinking, what's going on here? I remember the summer of 2021 we were playing Finn Harps up in Ballybuffet. It was just I don't think there was any fans allowed. I remember big Ollie Mitskogan scored, but we were waiting outside Oriel for the bus, and it was a beautiful sunny day. And Sonny Nadestad come onto the bus wearing a pair of yellow sunglasses. And I was sitting up at the front and I started laughing at him, and he looked at me and goes, "You okay, man?" And I goes, "You will not need them sunglasses where we're going." I goes, "We're going to Ballybuffet." So we got to Ballybuffet, and I remember him looking around thinking, fucking hell, what is this? So it obviously it's going to take him a while to bed in, but they've played. I remember speaking to him as well, and they found it a bit strange playing teams in your own division in pre-season, because you wouldn't normally get that in England or whatever. But it's given him a taste of what to sort of expect. And sure, Louis played at the Aviva, obviously with Gibraltar before, so He's played in a couple of nice venues. He obviously be playing against Ireland as well now coming up in the qualifiers, so that could be interesting for him. But in fairness, they all know of the club, but obviously it's going to take them a while to settle into their new surroundings and get up to speed with the people and the accent and the crack and the way we go on and stuff, you know.
But even someone, you mentioned Louis, and there's obviously other ones like Hayden and Cameron. But like, I remember us getting the rumours through that this guy was going to be signed for Blackburn. But like, I know like what kind of Gibraltar, but like 30 odd caps at any international level, you know, it's a pedigree player you get, and he's 22 or whatever. Like, they have 36 caps at any international at 22 years of age. I mean, if he carries on at that level, he'll have 100 caps by the time he's 28. You know, 29. Like, I mean, if you were considering that trajectory, like, you know, to play against, regardless of what team you're playing in an international, you have to play against decent opposition. And if he's holding his own at centre half there, I mean, he's obviously like we didn't know a lot of him, but he's, you know, I haven't seen any preseason games, but just watching highlights, I mean, he could be a real, you know, I think I pushed him the spot last season as well, looking for a player that you might think of all the signings. I think you picked Paul Doyle, but I'll probably put you on the spot now as well. But for me, I think that could be a real shrewd signing from Stephen.
Well, if you look at it over the next what 9-12 months, he's going to be playing against France, Holland, Republic of Ireland. Who else in the group? Greece, is it? He's going to be probably up against Mbappe and, you know, players like that. Like, it's, you know, it's not bad. Like, I'm sure he's going to learn something. Do you know what I mean? It might be a tough evening for him, but like, if you don't learn from that, then you never will.
Yeah.
But he's a good lad. He's very, very sensible. He's got his head screwed on. He's only 22. He's picking the music as well for tomorrow night. We've asked the players to pick the warm up music because, you know yourself, sometimes when you're listening, sometimes when the players are warming up and there's a ballad on in the background, it just might not be the right atmosphere to warm up in. So we've asked the players to pick the music, and they're doing an alphabetical order. So Louis up first, and it wasn't a bad choice. It was a solid enough choice that he's gone with to start off. So he's a good lad. He's, as I say, he's very sensible, head screwed on, very good on the ball, both feet. He can play. I think he played fullback up in the Malone Cup, left back. So he's capable of playing at centre half and across the back four. And I think we'd see he's a really good player.
Is there
he's not
anybody?
The one, though, if you're looking for me, pick Gally, Conor Malley. Malley.
I was gonna ask, is there anybody that you're really, really looking forward to their musical selections lighting up the stand before a match?
Oh, gee, it's probably the ones I'm not looking forward to. Daniel Kelly, I can only imagine what he's going to pull out. Robbie Benson, I'd say, be probably. I think he's next. I'd say Bob will probably be a nice sort of, you know, one of those where you're like, yeah, I like that. Who else? Some of the stuff to be listening to the gym. Mark Byrne actually might be up soon. Some of the stuff he'd be listening to the gym. Jesus, you know, should be locked up.
Surely Wardy would have an owl.
Wardy, yeah. Well, God knows what playlist Wardy would put together. I think Benson might have a couple of ginnets up the sleeve.
Gav, look, thanks to you, I got to see a couple of their preseason matches this year. You can see a sort of something evolving with this team, and the likes of, you know, Cammy Elliott getting his chance, getting a goal and stuff like that. Ryan O'Kane, of course, in the Wexford game, very impressive. And I think probably in Drogheda, Conor O'Malley was probably the best player for ourselves there, and maybe the best player on the pitch in total. It's been a decent enough pre-season, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't read too much in results-wise, because last year we got spanked 5-1 by Bows, and you know, it was one to forget. But I think the main thing in pre-season was getting minutes into the lads who were coming back. I think Dickie's the only one who didn't get minutes in, and I think he was back training this week. So was important for likes of Benson, Dara Leahy, Greg, Hoban. I know Pat was back for the last game of the season, but it was good for him to get a full pre-season under his belt and get minutes in. And then it's important for the new lads coming in to get integrated into the squad and into the team as quick as possible. And I think the one massive benefit is they're all coming from the UK, so they're all fit, they're all in season. It's not like they're playing catch up and they have to go through a full pre-season to get up to speed. So I think when Archie Davis signed, I think he played 2 or 3 nights before he actually joined us. So they're all fit and ready to rock. So I think it has been a good pre-season. Haven't picked up any major injuries. There was a couple of niggles, but nothing to be too concerned about. So I think everybody's just let's get 7:45 out tomorrow and let's get it up and running and let's get going.
And I suppose if you're going to start the season, Gavin, start it at home, even better.
Exactly. Yeah, that was one of the things Stevie said in his interviews, that it's a home game. And like, if you think of last year, just beaten by Pats in the last second of that game, the record was unbelievable. And he always said that from day one. Oriel needs to be, it needs to be Oriel, as we all know it. And I think I love Oriel in the winter. I know in the summer it's lovely going up there and you can go up in your t-shirt and there's a great crowd, but I think Oriel, as it is at the minute, is made for winter nights. And do you know what I mean? It's dark and it's intimidating and it's noisy and stuff. So, I think it's UCD tomorrow night. It's the first game of the season, so I'd expect a decent turnout. And if we can keep that home record, if we go with the same home record as we did last year, like you remember last year, it took us ages to win a game away from home. I've no doubt we'd be better on the road this year. So if we can maintain our home form this year and do the same as what we did at Oriel, then we'll have a great shot of being in there in about it at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Look, and I think we'd all be happy with that. Again, Gavin, that's another successful season. To be still competitive come the end of the year and have something to play for or come out with a prize at the end of it. That's it. Whether that's European football again for another year. Of course, we have a European run this year in the middle of this, so we'll enjoy that fixture congestion when it comes to
big time. And that was the one thing. I think it only hit everybody last July when you started seeing the other teams playing in Europe, because you're thinking, Jesus, fucking, we should be in the airport now with the rest of them heading away. It was the same with the cup final. It was just so weird seeing the cup finals, without us being there, Yeah. But I think Europe definitely sort of hit home how big of an attraction it is for us all when it comes to the summer. And that's what, you're heading away God knows where for a couple of nights and you're bumping into lads from town in the town square and one of the Baltic states, or God knows where you bump into them. But it's definitely something to look forward to. But like, you think, as you say, Chris, having something to play for going into the last couple of games. When we played Bows at Oriel, knowing that we could clinch Europe, it was just brilliant going in and knowing that there's something on the line here. And even when we went up to Derry the last night, knowing that if we bet them, we had a chance of finishing second. That's what you want to be. You don't want to get into. There was too many years there where, geez, we were getting into the second half of the season and it was dead and buried. Like, your only worry was whether there'd be enough people coming through the door for the last 9 or 10 games to keep the wages paid the following week. So I think we'll all look forward to Europe, but come the end of the season, I think if we've enough quality there to be still in and about in the mix come the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Look, that's it, Gavin. I want to thank you as always for giving your time. It's nearly a seasonal tradition now at this stage. You've kind of put yourself into a corner there, and we'll ask you every year. As long as if that's all right with you. Gav, look, no doubt we'll be bumping into you tomorrow up in Oriel Park. And to everyone, I suppose out there, we'd ask everyone to get up to Oriel if you can. If not, tune in on LOI TV for some superb camera work as always.
Jesus.
I'm going to mess up.
Shameless plug there, man.
Yeah.
I seen Flannel.
I've been listening to you about the program for the past while. I had to do something.
I seen Flannel leaving a comment there as well. I'm surprised Flannel will be joining Adrian Taff on co-commentary. It's great to have the lads back as well.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant going in, because to say last year it was nearly, geez, the season started. Like, you know what I mean? Whoa, it's the first game. But I think everybody just there's a real sort of anticipation. Everybody's just looking forward to getting back up and seeing people. It's a long off season. If he's a bit too long. But even I think just mentioned we did the season preview night down in Blackstone there a couple of weeks ago, and I think everybody came down to that. I think would agree that it was a great night, and it sort of gave everybody it got everybody into the mood again to look forward to the new season. I think everybody there's a real sort of buzz about it, and it'd be great to see everybody back at Oriel tomorrow night. Just before I go, Chris, I suppose the one thing we do have to say is unfortunately we've lost a lot of good people over the winter since the season ended, who unfortunately won't be with us at Oriel tomorrow night. We do plan on paying sort of tribute to them on the scoreboard before the game. So look, I'll be putting together a list of sort of supporters and whatever that we've sort of known who have passed since the season ended. It's no disrespect to anybody or no slight if we don't get anybody or we missed out on somebody. That's, I'm sure there might be somebody we weren't aware of or just didn't get to us, but we do plan on paying tribute to them, because the obvious one I mentioned this week is Roy, because Roy sold the program, and it'll be sad not seeing Roy there tomorrow night. Obviously Joe Martin, one of our greatest ever players, but there's been so many more we've lost unfortunately over the winter, so they'll be in our thoughts, and we do plan to pay tribute to them tomorrow night. So keep an eye out for that before kick off.
Yeah, well, there's a reason to get in early as well. Then, just to pay our respects to those people who are no longer with us. Gav, as I say, thank you so much for your time. Gentlemen, I'll be seeing so much of you for the next few weeks. All right.
Can't wait.
I only see you once a year. It's not so bad.
Exactly. Look, until tomorrow night, lads, I suppose we'll go again. Then, Gav, again, thank you so much. Best luck for the season, and pass on our regards to Skip and the lads. We're right behind them for the full season again. And we're back, obviously, with the player sponsorship again with Breaks Loggett this year. So thanks to everybody who contributed in on that. So it's great to have a little community here that always get involved each year, and we hope to keep that going as long as we can too. So until tomorrow, Gav, come on to town.